So I got into dubstep after being in a drum bass scene for about 3 years. That's only when we're talking about producing. I've listened to drum bass for a very long time beforehand. But dubstep was pretty much like a breakthrough for me. I think I've don't know what to say really. Dubstep was at first I really hated it, but then turned out that it was worth it. My first attempt at dubstep was the track called "Choose Me," and people really liked it, which was a surprise for me. It was just something I decided to do after I came back from school one day, and yeah, it turned out to be very good. So that's it was pretty much maybe just people influencing me, asking me to do a dubstep version of a track that I've already done. So I did, and that's how I got into it. So once I started with audio porn and mainframe in May this year, I was actually noticed by Shimon, who's pretty much a legend at this point, and he noticed me through a guy called High Maintenance. He still is good friends with Shimon. He's actually on audio porn as well, just as I am and many other artists. And I think he was pretty impressed or something. I actually talked to High Maintenance a couple of times before I even got mentioned to Shimon, and so Shimon hit me up after he heard a couple of my tunes which weren't released yet, and at that time we were just talking. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to get into that kind of business exclusively for 3 years, not being able to do anything else for any other labels, but eventually I did. So which I'm pretty proud of. It was actually the people who asked me to do the remix. At first, I've done a house version because I didn't really want to do a dubstep version at first. So at first, I've done an electro house version of the tune, which was supposed to be the only Choose Me track at first. But then it was actually the people of internet that got onto me and just asked for me to make you should make a dubstep version of it. So I did. And what Shimon noticed was not Choose Me at all. Before I've done Choose Me, I've done a couple of tracks which in the end eventually got released into Mainframe Recordings, which is the other label I'm assigned into exclusively. And it was pretty much a tune called Evolutions Per Minute that Shimon noticed, and he really liked it. At that time it was signed to a completely different label, but we decided to ditch that label and release it on Mainframe, which was the other half of my contract. When you look at the statistics, UKF must have been the major player in my fan base. I pretty much just quadrupled because of it, and I must send like huge big ups to Luke for that. Yeah, so UKF has definitely helped me, and it's about to promote some more of my stuff in the coming months as well. When it comes to music, it was always my parents because they're both musicians. My mom's also a conductor and a violinist, and it was them who mostly got me into music. They were feeding me all that blues, jazzy stuff ever since I was born, and once it got to something I should make out of music, my dad recommended I play drums, so I did for like 7-8 years professionally in a couple bands. So even in the meantime, drum and bass came into the picture, and once I finished high school, I moved to the UK, and I started producing professionally this time. Being able to play drums before you start producing a music that contains drums in it is much helpful. Definitely, I've added a lot of elements that I've learned from my dad as well. I'll keep on mentioning my dad, but yeah, this is pretty much all about him. I'm adding a lot of elements that I always used while playing in those punk rock, hardcore bands back in the day, which are like, triplets, all those various kinds of tremolos, which I'm trying to implement in the future projects as well. At the moment I'm using Cubase, and it's been like that since ever. My dad recommended it to me when I was much younger, but at that time I didn't even know what it is. So my dad used to work with a lot of musicians at that time. He still does, because he's a drummer for like 30 years now. He advised me to use Cubase as the main production tool whenever I do any kind of recording. So this is pretty much my dad's idea. So when it comes to using anyone else's stuff, I think I just pretty much try to reproduce stuff that I've heard. It was must have been throughout the first year of my producing thingy, where I just tried to see if I even can manage to do all the stuff that professionals do at the moment, which at the time was Spore. I tried to do as many different sounds and as many really similar sounds to Spore's, and see if I can even mix them correctly as he did. So Spore must have been my main inspiration when it comes to that, but I never stole anything from a, like, cut out a sample. That's not me, but yeah, I always try to reproduce in various ways, instruments, layering samples, samples from sample packs, of course. I think that's it, yeah. Apart from Spore, I always liked Noisia, which was my other main influence since the beginning. And I think the actual artist who I started with was Calyx. He must have been, yeah, these were the days of Rockstar's GTA 3. And all the stuff that I've heard throughout the past, were, you know, finding those CDs in my flat just full of drum and bass songs. I have no idea where they came from at the beginning when I was a kid, like 9 years old. And it's all those bits and pieces I found, such as DJ Rap, Concord Dawn at the beginning of time, and Future Cut, all those jungle artists at the very beginning of my pretty much, like, I think I must have been 9 or 8. And, you know, after that I came to Neurofunk, so I discovered Black Sun Empire, and it all went straight downhill from there. It was just many others. Once internet got into the picture, it was just like a whole new world. So the upcoming projects are going to be Skyward EP on Audio Porn. It's been delayed now, so it's going to be released in December this year. And the other one is going to be not yet announced EP for Mainframe Recordings. So this is pretty much the first time I'm announcing it. It's going to be Ultra Funk EP for Neurofunk tracks, brand new, fresh for Mainframe Recordings, and it's probably going to be sometime beginning of next year. Big fan of the Neuro, always trying to make it different though, make it more melodic, make it more energetic, add some voices, add some maybe even orchestral elements, so that it's much more melodic than all the you know, deep stuff that people usually, how do you call it? Usually when people think of Neurofunk, they always think of dark stuff. I'm trying to make it different, trying to make it brighter. When it comes to different genres, I think I always wanted to try a completely different thing than anyone else tries in the drum and bass scene, because I think from what I've seen so far, drum and bass producers usually tend to divert into dubstep at some point. I'm about to actually start Dark Ambient project, which is going to be just full of pads, full of non-rhythmic schematics, which is going to be pretty much something different that I think not many people from the drum and bass scene got into afterwards. So far, Australia has been amazing. This is the first time I've been outside Europe since ever since. So big ups to Loaded Dice for promoting, everyone involved in everything when it came to the tour. I've still got Japan to do next week, and I can't imagine, I just can't describe how exotic it is to be here. It's just amazing. I gotta come back. This is definitely T-Rex, especially when it comes to Toy Story. Oh my god, this was just me in a T-Rex form. Yo, this is Xilent on Tunnel Vision.